Even at a young age, the path was clear for Monarch CEO Peggy Terhune.
I was sick as a kid. I had tonsillitis, and back then it took them a long time to get my tonsils out. So we always went to the doctor's office, and I saw the nurse, and I decided I wanted to be a nurse because that nurse was just so caring and compassionate. So my dad worked for a medical supply house, and one day he had to go to work, and we had the day off of school. And my mom said, "Why don't you take Peggy with you?" Because she knew that he was going to a center that day that I might find interesting. So on the way to the center, my dad explained to me children were to be seen and not heard. I was not to bother him. I was not to ask questions. He would answer any questions in the car on the way home, but I was to be silent and just watch and observe and listen. I was probably 7 or 8. I remember pulling up to this one-story building. It had a flat roof. Why I remember that, I don't know. We pulled up to this one-story building. The gentleman met us in the entryway, and we walked into this room that was filled with cribs, and in every crib was a baby. My dad had explained to me on the way to the center that the children were put here because they were going to die before they turned 5 years old. This room full of babies, not a single one making a sound. I don't remember seeing staff, but I remember walking along this row of cribs and then in a U shape walking along the next row and walking along the last row. There were probably 30 or 40 cribs in this one room. Well, I was 7, and you know how 7-year-olds are. I was kind of trailing my finger along the cribs. And I got to one crib, and a little girl who I now know with my education had hydrocephalus, but of course I didn't know what that was then. The child had a really big head. We didn't know how to treat that condition back in the 50s. But as I'm dragging my finger along, she grabs my finger and she smiles. And I stood there smiling at her and talking to her, and it seemed like she was listening to me. And then I realized my dad had disappeared, and I better hurry up because I needed to run along and tell my dad we had to take this child home. We could help this child. My mom could do anything. She could fix this child, right? That faith children have in their parents, right? My mom could fix this child. We needed to take her home. Please don't leave her here. I don't want her to die. I want her to come home. I was devastated. I tried to get my dad's attention. He, of course, said to me, "Peggy, I told you. I will talk to you when we get back in the car." We get in the car, and I'm like, "Dad, don't go. Don't drive away. We have to take this little girl home. She's not going to die. We can save her." And my dad, who knew much better than I what was going on, said, "Peggy, we cannot save that little girl, but when you grow up, you can save as many children as you can." And so that became my mission. I decided to become an occupational therapist, and I wanted to work with children. But I fell in love with the field of mental health. So I worked with children, and I worked in mental health. I worked in many different settings. But my goal has always been to provide that hope that those children and those families never had. My goal has always been to help everyone.
As the head of Monarch, Dr. Terhune is one of many bringing to life the vision for the Stephen M. Morris Behavioral Health Center. With every passing day, the center is taking shape and coming closer to reality. This isn't just another facility. It's a regional resource rooted in compassion, access, and the belief that behavioral health care should be available for everyone. I'm Dominique Clark, and on this episode of Did Y'all Hear, we're introducing you to Monarch, the organization that will help bring the mission to life. You'll hear from Dr. Terhune about the heart behind the work, the stories that fuel their mission, and the deep commitment to helping individuals and families navigate mental health and recovery. We'll also check in with Cabarrus County's Behavioral Health Director, Dr. Kamilah McKissick, about the county's widespread collaborative efforts. And we'll swing by the construction site for a behavioral health center update. Finally, we'll take you to NAMIWalks, a community event where CABCO staff and others gathered in a powerful show of solidarity. This is a story about progress, purpose, and people working to make meaningful change right here in Cabarrus County. I am here with the incredible Dr. Peggy Terhune with Monarch. We're so excited to have this conversation with you today. I know there's some amazing things in the works right now between Monarch and Cabarrus County, so I'm excited to get into it. But first, I'd love for you to introduce us to Monarch and tell us a little bit about this organization.
Oh, well, thank you so much. I'm thrilled to be here and thrilled to be doing this podcast. Monarch is just, it's the most incredible organization, and I am so proud of the people that work for Monarch. Monarch is an organization, a private nonprofit with an unpaid nonprofit board, and today we are a statewide organization that provides services to people with mental illness, substance use disorders, and intellectual and developmental disabilities. And I think the biggest thing we do is we give people hope, because without hope, there's no purpose in life, right? So how do we do that? People come to us typically at their worst. They're in pain. They're hurting. They're sad. Sometimes they're devastated. And they come to us and they say, what's the point? And our goal is to help them find that point and figure out how to cope with life, because life is messy.
Yeah.
Life is hard. And it's interesting, 1 in 5 people have mental illness. Over COVID, when we were going through COVID, we learned that at that point, 1 in 4 people were experiencing mental illness. And so people come to us and they think they're no good. But that's not it at all. It's that they have an illness and they need help. Just like you would go to a doctor for a heart attack, there's no stigma or shame to go to a doctor because your brain changed. You need help with that. So many people that experience substance use disorder have difficulty realizing that they have a problem, or they may even know they have a problem, but they don't know how to get out of that problem. Mm-hmm. It's not enough to just stop using that drug or using alcohol. You have to have coping skills. You have to have ways to develop relationships that you never developed before. So Monarch helps with that. Yeah. With the intellectual and developmentally disabled community, we do the same kind of thing, but it's different. So what we do for people across the state is everything from provide housing and a place to be safe, to treatment where you can learn coping skills, to helping people find employment, helping people find food. No, we're not a food pantry, but we know that if you're hungry every day, you can't think about your mental health. You're thinking about food. You're thinking about survival. So how can we meet those needs so then you can focus on yourself?
I can imagine over the years that you guys you've seen several challenges, but also been, granted many opportunities to kind of shift the way you approach care with your patients. So how has Monarch's services evolved over the years?
So it's really interesting. We started as an agency, like many agencies started in the 50s and 60s, with families that would go to church and put their child with a developmental disability in Sunday school, and their child would learn. So these parents would say, my child can learn. I want my child to go to school, but it was illegal. So they actually started organizations, multiple organizations across the state were started this way by families who said, I'm not going to throw away my child. I'm not going to put my child in an institution. So anyway, Monarch started with developmental disabilities. So when I came 30 years ago, believe it or not, we provided services to those folks. But, just like everybody else, people with developmental disabilities or intellectual disabilities experience depression. At school, they might be bullied. They might have anxiety. They want to do and be what their siblings are doing and being, and for some reason, they can't. And so we tried finding mental health supports for them, and there was nothing in the state that we could find. So we said, okay, if it isn't here, we're going to grow it. So we actually hired a psychiatrist from Kansas. And he wanted to focus on people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And he was really awesome, particularly with metabolism. So he worked with our folks, and he was able to do what other psychiatrists were not doing at the time. He wouldn't give people medicine to zonk them so that they'd just behave. He would give them medication to feel better so we could teach coping skills so they could have incredible lives.
Yeah.
So today, those people have jobs. They create incredible art that they sell various places. They live in apartments or group homes or in their family homes, and they have incredible lives. And so that's how our psychiatry services started. But pretty quickly, we grew to do more services. My husband and I became foster parents, and we actually fostered kids for over 20 years.
Wow.
And the kids we had in our house had experienced a trauma, right? They had been taken away from their family and put in foster care. Now, there were good reasons for that. DSS doesn't do that for no reason. The parents could not parent for one reason or another, so the child had to be pulled away. But even if mom and dad were not doing the things the child needed, that was still very traumatic. So Bob and I became foster parents and started working with these kids. And we discovered that all of our kids were anxious or depressed. And sometimes those kids were in crisis. And when a child is in crisis, if you take your child to the emergency room, they can address the crisis by giving you medicine so that you're not screaming and yelling. But they can't treat your mental illness. So I remember as a foster mom taking one of my foster kids to the emergency room, and she sat there for 3 days. And then I took her home because she was now calm. She was through the crisis, and she didn't need hospitalization. She just needed someplace to be during her crisis when she was thinking about hurting herself. So, well, we needed to do something about that. So Monarch actually opened the first crisis program for children and youth in North Carolina. We opened it in Charlotte, and we are always full of referrals. So when a child comes to our facility-based crisis program, they get treatment immediately. It starts right away, and they're only there for 5 to 7 days. And I have to tell you, it's so funny. I took the president of your NAMI, Cabarrus County's NAMI chapter, to view the facility-based crisis because we were talking about bidding on this one, and she wanted to know who we were and what we do. So I took her and we walked through the center, and then we stopped by a table where 3 girls were sitting outside chatting. And not knowing these girls and not knowing what they would say, I said to the girls, "This is a lady who wants to know what our services are like. Could you tell them what you think?" With, kind of my heart in my hand, what are they going to say, right? And what they said to her was, "This is the best place ever." One girl said, "I've been in 4 other places, and this is the place I finally got help." She said, "They treat you differently here. They treat you with respect. They listen to you here."
Work on the facility continues at a strong pace. If you drive by the new center on Copperfield Boulevard, you can see the walls taking shape around the perimeter. Steel beams are arranged around the site and will soon be raised. Some underground plumbing and electrical systems have also been installed. The building remains set for completion in the spring of 2026. So, the Stephen M. Morris Behavioral Health Center, it's coming soon. We're excited about it. Can you tell us what your role is in all of this?
So this is going to be the coolest place in North Carolina. I promise you it is, because it's going to be the opportunity for kids to actually stay within a safe space and get whatever need they have met. So it's going to start with an urgent care. Now, the urgent care is actually going to be both for adults and children, but they're in separate spaces. So an urgent care is, I've hit bottom. I got to get help. I got to get it today. Pick up the phone, call a psychiatrist. You can have an appointment in 3 months.
Right.
No, I need help today. So they're going to be able to come to this center, and they're going to be able to see a therapist and a psychiatrist. They're going to be able to get a diagnosis and figure out what do we need to do. And if that child can't go anywhere, they can actually stay there for 23 hours while we figure out what needs to happen next. But this is the beauty of this center. Suppose they need that facility-based crisis program. For 5 to 7 days, they just need to get through a crisis. We're going to have it there.
Yes.
They're going to be able to come into our facility-based crisis program, get those needs met, and hopefully go home. But what if they can't go home? What if there isn't an appropriate place? What if this is a child who really needs long-term treatment? So how about we have a place where the child can come, get schooling in small classes, get teaching and learning all those coping skills? And what about if we're also working with mom and dad? That's called a PRTF, a psychiatric residential treatment facility. So this is a place kids will be able to come and parents will be able to learn, and the child will stay there. I was only willing to open a facility with this licensure designation if we could do it differently. And Cabarrus County stepped up and said, we want what's best for our kids. We don't want our kids to be warehoused. We don't want our kids to just be thrown away. We want our kids to get treatment. We want our kids to get better. We want our kids to have hope. So I said, great, let's do it differently. So, for example, in this center, kids will be able to have school at whatever stage they are with teachers that are trained to work with kids with special needs. Maybe I have an undiagnosed learning disorder and no one ever figured out, and they just said, oh, you get C's, you're dumb. You know what? That kid is probably not dumb. That kid has probably just never been given the attention and the ability to have wins. Mm-hmm. You need to win to feel better, right? So what if I do this assignment and I don't understand it? I want a teacher who can take time with you and spend that time to help you, teach you new or different ways of doing things. Now, sometimes what we need is social work therapy, where we talk to people. But we know that kids learn a lot through activity, through what I would call occupation. And so the occupation of a child, for example, is to play. Children need to be able to play. But sometimes when you're having mental problems, you can't play. So the other thing this center is going to have that's different than PRTFs is we're going to have occupational therapists. And they're going to be in this center, and they're going to be helping children learn through activity. For example, at our facility-based crisis in Charlotte, we are the only facility-based crisis that has occupational therapy. So we were having difficulty with kids who had lost all interest in their personal hygiene. They just didn't see any point anymore in taking a shower, being clean. So the occupational therapist got everybody together and they created this gloppy bath bomb type thing that the kids loved. They got to put their own scent in it. They got to put their own stuff in it. And they couldn't wait to go take a shower and use this body wash, right? Because it was cool and it was neat and they had made it. And all of a sudden, the hygiene in the center went way up. So it's not just talk therapy that these kids need. They need occupation. They need activity. They need things that they can learn from that will help them develop the goals that we all want them to have.
I don't think we see this type of offering a lot around here. So can you talk about how unique this collaboration is with Monarch?
So it's so unique because Cabarrus County gets it. And I'm not saying other counties don't get it, but I'm saying that because of our collaboration, Cabarrus County has been dreaming with us. We meet with your folks regularly, and we dream right back. And actually, as we speak today, some of your staff and my staff are visiting a program out of state that is one of the best in the nation. And they're visiting that program to find out what that program does that is state of the art. We want, together with our collaboration, to have a state-of-the-art program where everybody wants to be in our program. Now, of course, we know our program is for Cabarrus County, but we also know that if there are not enough kids at that moment in time, we'll take kids from other parts of the state to come into these centers. All of the centers in the state are statewide, and that's why the state gives the programs like this program some funding, because the state knows how important these things are.
Of course, success will take a wide range of collaboration. Here's Cabarrus County Behavioral Health Director, Dr. Kamilah McKissick.
They really have partnered with us to think through what we needed in our center and what types of services we needed in our center. We meet on a regular basis. We are now working on programming within the center and really looking at other programming throughout the nation.
Nice.
And making sure that we're bringing the most state-of-the-art programming to our center, the most evidence-based programming to our center. So we have really been partners in these efforts, which has been really positive. And it makes our center really unique because sometimes when counties partner with providers, they partner with them for a short period of time. They get through the request for proposal process, and once they're chosen, the county kind of backs away. And so one thing that I think is super exciting and very unique is that we will be partners from beginning to end. So we're going to be partners as we outfit the center, as we design the center, and then we'll continue to be partners as the center opens and is active.
So you mentioned our behavioral health center, or department rather, is going to be playing a big role, when the doors open. What are some of the things that the behavioral health department has been up to as we're waiting for that moment to happen?
Well, the behavioral health department is busy doing doing lots of things. We've really been focused on just expanding our behavioral health navigation program to make sure that it not only serves the child welfare and the adult and aging departments within human services, but that it also serves the greater organization. So we've been accepting referrals and working with folks within the community. We've been working with folks within veteran services, transportation services, library services. We are engaged in partnerships with lots of folks within the community. We are leading the efforts in really thinking about what our county needs, what their resources are, where our folks are really struggling. In particular, we know the both school systems have really been struggling with students and families reporting additional behavioral health needs. So we know that the need is great in our county. And so really partnering with like-minded folks, like through the Mental Health Advisory Board, through our work with Partners Health Management, and through our work with many partners throughout the county, we've really been able to look at where our resources are and how to enhance those resources and make sure they're meeting the needs. And I can share that in the last year, because of those partnerships, we were able together as a group to hold 114 training sessions and serve 1,387 residents.
That collaboration happens throughout the year, but it's on full display each May as hundreds gather at Franklin's Park for the Cabarrus and Stanley County's NAMIWalks event.
We have an awesome roster of vendors here today. Make sure to check them out. Say hello. They'd be happy to see you.
Good morning, Cabarrus County and Stanley County NAMIWalks participants, residents, and friends. My name is Ty Elijah, and I'm the Behavioral Health Navigator with Cabarrus County Behavioral Health Department. On behalf of the department, I want to welcome you all to this essential, life-saving event. It is truly an honor and a privilege to live and work in a county that has a long-standing commitment to supporting the overall health and well-being of our residents.
We say yes. Yes, you matter. Yes, you belong. Yes, we're walking this road together.
Walkers waited out a brief morning downpour before hitting the trail. During the wait, many shared their stories.
11 and a half years ago, I lost my oldest brother to suicide. And I really don't know what to say, but I met Angie because a friend of mine told me about a suicide survivor support group. which I started back in October. 11 and a half years ago when my brother took his life, there was no help for me. So I want you to know that there is help, and don't be afraid to say, first of all, my God, if anybody is feeling like they want to take their life, please come talk to somebody. Be here tomorrow. Also, if you have lost somebody or you know somebody that has, please tell them about the resources. Get them in touch with Angie. I would be more than happy to talk with them. He was the best big brother. He raised us on rock music, and at his funeral, I had Pink Floyd, "Wish You Were Here" playing. And so go listen to that song today.
Learn more about Monarch by visiting monarchnc.org. And as always, you can find a link to this podcast and all the ways we stay connected to the community at cabarruscounty.us/cabgo. That's CABGO. And listen, don't forget to like and subscribe. And be sure to give us a rating and leave a review. We'd love to hear what you think. Thanks for listening, y'all.